I'm doing something right now that as soon as I get to the other side of that lake over there will be completely illegal. Because over here on this side of the lake, I'm in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland is part of the UK. On the other side of the lake is the Republic of Ireland, which is a separate country with its own laws, and that includes one law that makes something that is completely freely enjoyed by people in the UK illegal in Ireland. However, in practice, all is not exactly how it seems, and we'll get to that later. And that horrible illegal activity, and that illegal activity is this, cycling on forest trails. And that includes remote, quiet forest trails that there isn't really anybody about. This is something that is completely legal in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, but in the Republic of Ireland, it is illegal to cycle on 97% of the 4,000 kilometers of forest trails. And that includes all types of cyclists, from children out with their families on their little tiny balance bikes, to bikepackers like ourselves, to mountain bikers. Any type of cycling on that land is illegal. And the reason for that, and you're going to go over there, I can't look at your feet. And the reason that it is illegal actually kind of exposes a wider problem with outdoor access in Ireland, which itself, once again, is not entirely as it seems. I'm out for a bikepacking trip with my friend Colin over here. Along the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about history, maybe a little bit about cycling, and also discuss how the idea of suing the British government connects to this ridiculous Irish law. So far today, we've started off from the village of Belcoo in County Fermanagh. We've headed up north into these forest trails. We've actually been following part of the Ulster Way. We've just seen a sign that says there's a viewpoint up here, so any opportunity for a view. This is what I like about casual bikepacking and cycling. It's not about putting in a lot of miles or a lot of effort. It's about exploring, having fun. I just swallowed about 5 flies. Hi, sheep! May have taken a wrong turn. We're looking back around, heading south towards the village of Quiltche, but before we get to the village of Quiltche, we have to cross the border from Northern Ireland into the Republic of Ireland. And not only is that a crossing from one country into another, thanks to Brexit, it's now also a crossing from the UK into the European Union. So, Colin, I hope you've got your passport with you. Let me just show you how difficult it now is to cross the border.
Go, go, go. More speed, more energy, more power.
Well, that was super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Right, well, that was Quiltche. Nice little place. Popped in, got some very essential supplies, and now we're heading out towards Glenfarne Forest and Loch McNean, where we're hoping to find somewhere to camp for the night. While we're on the way, I'll give you a little bit of history that sort of provides a bit of a backdrop to some of these current issues. First of all, I've got to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Bicmo Bike Insurance. Bicmo offers cycling insurance that helps support me and could help support you on your adventures. It's an insurance company started by cyclists for cyclists. 1% of their annual revenue is donated back to help support the cycling community and help the environment. They provide cover for normal bikes, for e-bikes if you're a cheater like myself, and the insurance also covers some of the kit, so my bike packing bags are covered as well. And if you sign up for your Bicmo policy through my affiliate link, they will donate £10 to the Trash Free Trails initiative, which is an initiative designed to make trails trash free. You could probably have figured that one out yourself. So with Bicmo, not only are you protecting your ride, but you're also protecting the places you ride. How was that? Quite cheesy. So right up until Irish independence in 1922, nearly all the land in Ireland was owned by British landlords, and this had been the case for about 400 years, ever since the Tudor conquest in the late 1600s. The British, the English came in, conquered the land, took it from the Irish, and then either put the Irish off the land or they rented it back to them. So the Irish became tenants on the very land that they had previously lived on for generations. And then following Irish independence in 1922, the new formed Irish state took that land off those landowners, and then the land was sold back to the Irish tenants who lived on it. Now, once again, that is simplifying a lot of history, but the long-term effect of it is that pretty much all land in Ireland today is privately owned, and that includes things like the mountains. The tallest mountain in Ireland, Carntoul, actually is owned by 4 different families, and it splits on the summit. The summit of that mountain is divided into 4 different owners, which will probably sound completely bizarre and crazy to you depending on where you are in the world, but that's a result of everything that happened before. A kind of ripple effect, side effect of this is that today Ireland actually has really poor access rights because so much of the land is privately owned. In fact, the people of Ireland only have the protected right to access 1% of all land here, and that's basically just the national parks. For a bit of contrast, Scotland, which has very similar population and population density, has got right to roam, and the Scottish can go pretty much anywhere they want. Now the thing is, that 1% figure that gets thrown around a lot doesn't actually tell the whole story. It would make you think that there's literally nowhere in Ireland you can go, but the reality is, well, quite a bit more positive than that. Although, again, saying that in itself is quite controversial, as I'll explain later. But first of all, we have to talk about the forests. Slightly concerned. Colin trundled off about 25 minutes ago because he needed to go to the toilet, and he hasn't returned. Colin! I'm wondering, is he having a tremendous, horrendous gastrointestinal incident somewhere in here? I found him. He isn't in a pool of his own diarrhea, thankfully.
What are you telling people?
I told them nothing. Apparently, there's a big rock up here.
Holy rock?
There's just a big rock. It's the Holy Stone of Clonrickert. That is indeed a big rock. Well, let's just leave the bike behind. Colin is bivvying on the ground. I was too concerned that there might be midges out already, so I thought there's no way I'm bivvying. So I mean, this is actually the new Durston Axmid, the 2025 version, just in case you're curious. And yes, I do also have the Pro version of this tent. I'm going to test them out, both out at the minute, to see what I think. But before the sun sets, because it's going to set in about 20 minutes, let's talk about the forests. Okay, in the UK, the Forest Service is owned and run. I can't even talk properly. The Forest Service is owned and run by the government. It's a government department, and the general public have got access to those forests for hiking, running, cycling, and in Scotland, camping. But in the Republic of Ireland, it's different. The Forest Service here is called Quiltche, and it's a semi-state business, which means it's owned by the government, but the government actually has very, very little to do with its day-to-day organisation or plans or business plans or the stuff it does. In 2009, Quiltche decided they didn't want cyclists on their 4,000 kilometre network, and they got a bylaw passed that made that illegal. This beautiful forest is Glenfarn, and It's quite unique in that it's one of the only forests that has a public road through it. Now, the problem with that is I'm no longer sure if I'm actually on the public road because the signage is really bad. Now, there's a little gravel road heading off this, which seems to just be there for forestry purposes. So I think this might be a spot where if I was just to cycle in there, I'd be, you know, committing an illegal action, breaking that law. But again, there's no signage. But you know, let's just get off my bike, just in case. This is what the law says. A person shall not use on Quiltche lands, which I think I'm definitely on this trail. I'm not sure about that trail because there's no signage. Shall not use any vehicles, cycles, skateboard, roller skates, or who goes rollerblading on gravel? Except in such areas and such routes as may be designated. That's the bylaw. So I think I'm fine if I push the bike. And this is why this is so ridiculous, because if we were out doing a long distance trail, trying to connect two sections of road together, and there's a section that goes 1 mile through a forest, if we want it to remain 100% legal, we would have to push the bikes. Even if that was completely remote, no people nearby, no forestry operations happening, we'd have to get off and push. The situation is kind of strange because actually Quiltche provides a lot of opportunities for outdoor recreation. They've got thousands of kilometers of walking trails, there's multiple forest parks, they even have dedicated mountain biking trails at their centres. Now you're only allowed to actually take the bikes on those trails themselves, but they do make some good allowances for recreation and they're increasing it. They've got plans to increase the number of recreational sites that they provide over the next few years. And for a while, they also allowed gravel cycling events on their forest network. That's events, groups of people get together, do races. Those events tend to be, you know, well contained, well organized, certain times on defined routes. You'd think that would be, you know, what would be the problem with that? But then they pulled the plug without warning on those events in 2023. And that really felt like they were trying to kill gravel cycling as a sport. Now contrast this with the situation in England. A really good example is the Forest of Dean website has a section dedicated to telling you about all the wonderful opportunities that gravel cycling provides in their forests and actively encouraging people to go gravel cycling. And at the bottom of that page, there's a few little lines that say things like, you know, be courteous of other forest users, watch out for forest operations. That's it. That covers everything. Common sense. So why is that common sense approach not been taken here? Well, I think I figured it out, and the best answer I can get to that is that it comes down to the fact that Quiltche is a semi-state company. It's not a government department. It basically operates like a private company. It's responsible for its own budgets, its own liabilities, its own insurance, stuff like that. In the UK, if somebody's injured on forestry land, they sue the government. In Ireland, if you're injured on forestry land, you sue the Forestry Service. Quiltche is not there so people can go out and have a fun day in the woods, even though they do have a recreation policy. Its main purpose is to supply Ireland's timber needs and to make money from growing and harvesting trees. So from their point of view, if they allow cyclists, permit cyclists on the wider trail network, that's adding an extra level of risk. Because at the end of the day, that just has the potential of eating into their profits. So despite the fact that Quiltche has a mandate that looks an awful lot like it's focused on benefiting, you know, people going into the outdoors, it's not really, because ultimately they're just about profit. And that is the best answer I can get as to why cycling is banned on the forest trails here. So next we're going to have a chat about what the solutions to this are, but also the reality on the ground that means everything's not quite as it seems. Oh, Colin, would you like to see my amazing camping invention?
I'd love to see your amazing camping
This is my amazing camping invention. It's 7 grams. Open it up.
I smell everything for some reason.
Yeah, I noticed that.
What does it do?
Could you be more patronising? It's my tiny organisational ball. There we go, that goes in there.
Is it made from
It's Tyvek.
Tyvek? Oh, okay.
I bought a little handheld sewing machine just so I can make this, so I can organise all my tiny bits. I mean, the tent does have 4 pockets in it, but it doesn't have a bowl. Do you think I should sell these?
You should absolutely sell them. Maybe work on your stitching a wee bit first.
Okay. Hey Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes.
What should do is take my wet shoes off and put on the Trump slippers.
Well, that's just delightful.
Your views will go through the roof for that. Better feet.
I'm gonna get offers to buy your socks. I have got every single layer that I brought with me on. It's just before sunrise and the forecast was that it was to get down to about 4 Celsius last night. But the ground around the tents is frozen and there's frost on the bikes, so that means it got down to below 0 last night. I brought my summer bag, which has a comfort rating of 7 Celsius. But it was alright. Colin is in a bivvy bag, which has got frost on the outside of it, and he's still snoring away, but I'm up watching the sky because I think we're going to get a beautiful sunrise. Look at this genius idea I just came up with entirely for myself and didn't copy from Colin at all. I've attached 2 guy lines to my handlebars and that's holding up the bike, rock solid, and then I can load it up without having to lie on the ground. Definitely didn't copy that from Colin. Okay, so while I'm basking in the morning light here, let's actually talk about what the reality is on the ground, because I camped last night and wild camping is also illegal in Ireland. You don't have a right to wild camp, and we've successfully done it, and I know lots of other people who successfully wild camp on a regular basis, don't have trouble, don't get moved on, because, well, they're respectful of the land and the landowners and the users of that land. They're subtle, they find places to camp out of the way, they don't take the mick, they don't, have parties and make a mess. Packed up, tents away, no trace has been left. And when it comes to that 1% figure that I mentioned earlier about access in Ireland, yes, it is true that there only is the legal protected right to access 1% of land here. But if you're on foot, the situation is actually pretty good, or at least it's much better than that. Quiltche have an open forest policy, which means that you can freely, on foot,
access all of their forests, and their forests cover, we'll say, 6% of all land in Ireland. So 1 plus 2, that's 7%, right? But then there's also a massive network of long distance walking trails. Now, you don't have the right, protected right, to walk these walking trails. You have what's called permissive rights. That's a permissive right from the landowners to walk those trails. Now, in theory, that means that those landowners could, if they wanted to, remove access at any time. But the reality is that that doesn't really happen that often. So when it comes to hike walking and hiking, yeah, there's actually quite a bit of Ireland that you're able to go out and explore. This is where it's controversial, because that's really not going to satisfy those who really want a proper right to roam in Ireland. And I guess there is a strong argument for it, because, yeah, population density is the same as Scotland, and Scotland has full right to roam, so why can't it happen here? That's the question. So we'll leave that there for now. But cycling, and gravel cycling specifically, right? The fact is, people quite freely gravel cycle on Quiltche trails all the time. All the time. There seems to be no enforcement. I couldn't find anybody who's gotten in any real bother. People have been quite happily, quietly cycling the trails for years without a problem. Probably the people who are affected most by the ban are the people who want to do properly organised events, races and things like that. They're the ones that are being affected the most. I think in Quiltche's point of view, why would we allow an event to occur, even if that event can happen in a way that we're happy with, when it's going to encourage this other cycling that we officially don't allow and is officially illegal? So for proper organised gravel cycling, it's really not good. This might not be popular because of an obvious thing, but maybe Ireland should be a little bit more like the UK when it comes to this specific issue. Why isn't the government covering recreation and forests? The government owns Quiltche, and it's got this semi-state disconnect, but that just feels like a convenience to me, that the government can be hands-off with it. Why don't they just step up and either take control back of forestry, or just take more control of recreation, or just take on the liabilities? This is one of these things that 100% can be solved if there's just the will to make it happen from all parties involved. And as we all know, where there's a will, there's a way. Back out of the forest, back on the road, 8 kilometers, 5 miles up that way. Then we get to Black Lion, and then cross the bridge, and we're back into Belcoo.
This map's cool. It shows the whole geopark area, and it takes in, some of it's in Northern Ireland, some of it's in the Republic of Ireland, but you can see there's loads of forests, like a lot more forest. I mean, in fact, we explored about that much over yesterday and today, and there's a lot more to explore next time. Oh, Lord of the Rings moment coming up here. You shall not pass! That'll keep at least one person happy. And that was Black Lion, and we've got another tricky border crossing coming. Oh wait, no. Oh wait, we just crossed the border. We're back in Northern Ireland.